Let's start recording as well. Let me share my screen, which is for can anyone answer over here if you are able to see the screen?
Yes, Praveen, you can see
Yeah,
it.
Praveen.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about the different methods that we have in terms of array. But before that, let's do a recap for array. What is array? How do we declare and so on for the next 5 minutes? Okay. So array is also a special type of data type. Array is also a special type of data type which help us in storing more than one element at a time, which basically helps us in storing more than one element at a time. Array is ordered collection where whenever you declare any kind of variable or any kind of value inside an array, that will be sorted in the same order. That means that will have the similar order over there. Then that will never get changed, and that is where we are also able to access the properties, access the variable, access the elements available inside an array by using an index, because it is a ordered collection. Ordered collection means however you declare the values inside the object will be available in the same. Okay. Now there are two different ways in which we can declare an array. One is by directly using an array literal, which is where we can define the array by basically utilizing square bracket. How do we define an array? Generally, we define an array by using simple square bracket. Right? Inside the square bracket, we can add any number of elements, any type of elements, as well as any values, any type of value. Okay, and we can define a specific types of data as well, and we can also define any type of data that it can store by also providing any data type that we can provide for array. Any specific that you can store, any like all the types of data types that you can also store, and so on. Okay. Now I believe in the last session when we left out, we had a discussion saying why do we not provide any along with the square bracket? Right? Someone was trying to ask, I don't exactly remember the name. Are you available in the session today?
Yeah, I was asking.
Okay, great. So what happened in general in this case is whenever you use any says that, and why does it also allow without square bracket? Any says that you can define any type of value over here inside the object, inside basically whatever or wherever you are trying to declare. So if you declare over here something like, let's say any, so why it is allowing is any says that either you can define a primitive data type or you can define also a non-primitive data type. That means whenever you have used any variable or any non-primitive data type, it says that either you can store a string or you can store a number or any type of data type that we have. This also says that you can also store, whenever you say any, it also says that you can also store any object type as well. Object type means objects, array, strings, and any other variable. Okay, so whenever you say any, that it says that you can also define an array as well for any type, and that is where it is accepting without mentioning it over here square bracket. When you mention a square bracket, it specifically says that we are trying to declare any type of value inside the array. But if you do not mention any, that means it can accept any type of value. Either you use an array or you use a simple some values over here. That will also be acceptable over here. And that is why it is not mandatory to define us for a square bracket. But when you basically define a square bracket over here as well, then you can see that it started throwing an error saying that you have defined any which should have to accept an array. Okay, and that is why it allows us to declare any without square bracket as well. Okay. Cool. So now let's move, and then the second type where we have defined an array by using an array constructor. So whenever a constructor comes into picture, that means we have to create an object. Basically, we have to create in the object way to define the array by using array constructor. That means you are trying to access a constructor that are available inside JavaScript and TypeScript. So we have to use a new keyword over here. Okay, new, and then array over here, and inside this we can provide any kind of value inside the array. Okay, now we have just declared the variables, right? We do not even see that how basically we have access. We can fetch the value from the array. So one way was using the index. Second way, we have seen that we can also use a traditional for loop, and third, we have also seen that we can also use a for off loop to get all the values from an array, right? Now, how do we do array manipulation? Array manipulation means how do you add the values, how do you delete the values, how do you add at specific time, how do you get only, like, let's say 3 to 4 values from an array, and so on. That we'll see in our session today. And always remember that probably 1% or 2% of time we'll be utilizing the array concept in our test automation. Probably 1% or 2% of time. Even when we go for utilization of an array, we'll be going by using the array literal way, where we define the value inside the square bracket. And now we'll basically be discussing over here around 15 to 16 methods. Close to 15 to 16 methods that we'll be discussing over here in terms of array. And all the methods will not be important, either in terms of the programming or in terms of the test automation. All the methods will not be important. Then you might be having a question, then why do we waste the time to understand all those 16 methods? Yes. So there is one important thing that from the array concept itself, the interviewer will derive 3 to 4 questions. 3 to 4 different types of questions they'll be asking from the array concept itself. And to answer those questions, we have to go through with all the methods that we have inside array. Okay, just a request, like if you have not muted yourself, please mute. Whenever you have any specific questions, there you can try to ask the questions. Not able to see the screen. Still not able to see the screen?
No, I'm able to see the screen now.
Okay, I see inside the Q&A saying that not able. Okay. Now let's go ahead and start the different types of methods that we have in both JavaScript and TypeScript. Whatever the method that we are trying to discuss inside an array are available in both JavaScript and TypeScript. Okay, so first one that we have is known as properties. Okay, one is known as length. Length is available as a property inside an array. Length is basically available as a property inside an array. What is the use of length? It will return us, length will return us the total number of elements that are available inside an array. Total number of elements that are available inside an array. Okay. Now let's declare one array over here, which I'll say it as let ARR equals to some value. Let's say we'll take few numbers of elements, which is 10, 20, 30. We can also combine with some other variables over here, some other values over here, which I'll say it as, let's say, people, and again, let's example as a 2, and then again use some number. So we have taken few number of elements. Now, if you see over here in this case, visually we know that there are three three 6 and three 9 elements are available inside this particular array, right? But how does our code know that, or how does our code or programs, whenever we try to use, know that or knows that how many number of elements that are available inside an array? So whenever we have to count those, we have a property. This is a property, not a method. Length is a property, not a method. Not a method. In Java, length is available as a method, but in JavaScript and TypeScript, it is available as a property. Property means variable that have been defined inside an array class. Okay, so this property, which is length, will help us in calculating the total number of elements that are available inside an array. How do we use this? What is the syntax to use this, or how do we use this? How do we utilize this whenever we have an array? So the syntax is pretty simple. Syntax is very simple. How do we use this property as array name dot length? Simple. Array name dot length, and this will give us the total number of elements that are available inside an array. Example: console.log array name, which is ARR over here for us that we have declared an array name dot length. Okay. So if you hover over on all the method that we are trying to discuss, if you just hover over on the method, you will get the definition of that particular method. It says that length of the array. This is the number one higher than the highest index in that. That means it says that it will just give us the total number of elements that are available inside an array. Okay. If you try to execute this, you can simply say that as tsx arrays.ts, and this will return us a value, whatever the value that it has gone through. So manually, we have also seen that there are 3, 6, and 9 number of elements, and by using the length property as well, it is saying there are 9 elements are available inside an array. So length will most of the time will be helpful to calculate the total number of elements that are available inside an array. Okay. Now, if you use as a method, how do we use as a method? That means we have to use parentheses, right? So if you use as a method, it gives us, it basically throws us error saying that this is not a method that are available inside an array. So if you click on this length, you will see that this length is a variable that are available inside an array. There is a method which is toString. There is other method that we have over here, pop, push, and for that you can see it is available as a parenthesis symbol. That means it is available as a method. Okay, so length is a property which will give us the total number of elements that are available inside an array. Now the method starts from here. Different kinds of method. Okay, now one thing that we know that how do you basically add the elements to the array? How do you add the element? So you have declared an array which is ARR, and if you want to add the element, how will you add that? So for that, if you want to add it over here, you have to use ARR and then again calculate like index, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 from 0 to 8 index. So you'll be basically writing 9, and then you define some value over here. Okay, and that will get added inside this, right? And if you again try to get this, it will give us a value as 10 because we have added. Now in this case, you have to understand what is the last index that we have. What is basically the last index that we have, then only you will be able to add the element to the end of an array or wherever you are trying to add, right? To solve this problem, they have given few of the methods. Okay, first one is known as a push. Push method, which also accepts a parameter, can be a single parameter or multiple parameter as well. Okay. Now this is the first method. What is the use of this method is, this method adds the element, whatever the element that you have provided as an argument, it will simply add the elements to the end of an array. The end of an array. That means after the last end of an array, after the last element that are available inside the array, it will add whatever the element that you are trying to provide as an argument inside the push method. Okay, it can accept multiple arguments as well. So let's see the syntax of usage of this push method. Syntax will always remain same for all array name dot method name. Array name dot method name, and it can accept multiple parameters, which is, let's say, element 1, then it can also accept element 2, and so on. Okay, whatever the number of element that you are trying to add over here, that will get added at the end of the basically end of the array. Okay, example, if you see over here, here are simply what is the syntax, which is array name dot push method. You can provide some values, whatever the value that you are trying to add it over here. So you can add, let's say, 90. You can also add something known as, let's say, orange. Okay, now whatever the value that you have given over here, you can just hover over on the method, and it says that it appends new elements to the end of an array and returns the new length of an array. It will also return some value. Okay, and that return value we are not interested, because we know how do we calculate the total number of elements that are available inside an array. How do we calculate the length? Okay, the general use of this push method is to add the element to the end of an array. Okay, after that, if you try to print the array, which I'll mention it over here as push method, after using a push method, and now if you see earlier, what was the array that we have at this point of time? The array that we have is, let's also print this, and after each method we'll try to execute and see what is the changes that are appearing inside the array. Okay, so push is a method which will add the elements or append the elements to the end of an array. Let's execute this and see what is happening. So earlier, before using push method, we had we basically have the array which is starting with 10 and ending with 50 over here, which is starting with 10 and ending with 50. But after using the push method, we can see that 90 and orange that we have given as a parameter over here have been added inside the array. Okay, so 90 and orange have been added inside the array. Push method help us in adding the element to the end of an array. Okay. Now the next method that we have is known as, we know, like, okay, by now we know that how do we add the element to the end of an array, but how do we delete the element from the end of an array? So for that we have another next method which is known as pop.
So Praveen, just one question over here. It's like why you have added push inside the console.log?
It's for identification that after push method, this is the resultant array.
Okay.
Just for the identification. If you remove this, there is nothing harm in that, but probably you will not understand after which method this is the resultant array. So that is why, just for the identification purpose, I have given after using the push method, this is the resultant array.
Okay, what was the before value and what was the after value?
Exactly.
So that's
exactly.
Okay. Got it.
If we do not use, then it will keep on printing the array, and later on when we use the method, we might not be able to understand where is this result coming from. So just to make it easy, I've used.
Okay, thanks, bro.
Great. Okay, so now there is a pop method. Pop method will not accept any parameter. Pop method will not accept any parameter. What is the use of pop method? Pop method will remove the last element from the array. Simply removes the last element from an array. From any array, whatever or wherever you are trying to use pop method, it will simply remove the element from the array, which is last element from the array. Okay, and now in this case also, Syntax will remain same for all because we are trying to use the method on the array. So the syntax will always be array name dot method name, which is array name dot pop. If it is accepting any kind of argument, then we have to provide as a parameter. If it is not accepting, if any of the method is not accepting any argument, then we do not have to use parameter over here. So pop is a method which will not accept any parameter because the work or the use of this or for the pop method is to remove the last element from an array. Simply remove the last element from an array. Example, simple, which is array name dot pop. Will remove the last element from an array, and it will also return us basically whatever the element that it has removed from the array. So removes the last element from an array and it returns us. If you try to print this, what it basically have done in terms of using the pop, so it will return you the deleted element from the array. So it will simply return you, if you try to print over here, it will simply return you the value which is let me try to print it, which is orange from here. So let's comment this out, and at this point of time you will see that this will return us a value which is orange at line number 77. It will return first orange, that it has removed the orange, and then this is the resultant value. So we do not I'm not interested in what it returns us right now, but just going through it to check what is basically the action that it is trying to perform. So pop method will remove the last element from an array, and if you see the resultant array now after using the pop method, then it has removed the last element which was in the previous print of the array was orange, and that have been removed from the new resultant array over here. Okay. Now this is the two method that we have seen, basically a push method and pop method, which adds the element to the end of an array and removes the element from the end of an array, which is last element. What if do we have any other method which let's say if I want to add the element to the beginning of an array, do we have any such method? Or if you want to remove the first element from an array, how do we do that? Okay, so for that there is a next method which is known as unshift, and there will be a question there will be a question definitely for all the level from the freshers to like 6-7 years of experience people. There will be a question saying that what is difference between push and unshift method? Push and unshift method, this will also accept multiple elements as a parameter, as an argument. And what is the use of this method is it adds the element to the beginning of an array. It add the element or elements. If you have provided one, then one element. If you have provided multiple, then multiple elements to the beginning of an array. Beginning of an array. Okay. So unshift method will simply add the elements to the beginning of an array. Now, whatever the number of elements that you have given over here, that will be added towards the beginning of an array. Any number of elements. Okay, how is the uses? How is the syntax? Array name dot unshift, and then it can accept multiple parameter as well. Okay, now you can simply use a array and then unshift. Let's say if we are trying to use TypeScript and JavaScript, which is TS and JS, we can simply use array name dot unshift. If you hover over on that, it says that it inserts new element at the start of an array, and it also returns the length of an array, new length of an array. Okay, so unshift method is basically helpful for us in terms of adding the element to the beginning of an array. And that is where the question comes like, what is difference between push and unshift method? Push method will add the element to the end of an array. Unshift method will add the element to the beginning of an array. After this unshift method, if you try to print, before that it was basically starting with a number 10, I believe. Number 10, it was basically starting with. Now if you say it will start with TS and then JS followed by all the other values will appear. So if you try to execute now, you will see that after usage of unshift method, it is basically starting with TS, JS, number 10, and other value have followed over here. Okay, so unshift method will help us in adding the element to the beginning of an array. Now you might have guessed what could be the next element which moves the element from the start of an array. That
Again, is it possible to remove the more than one element at a time using the pop method?
pop will only remove single element.
Single element. Okay.
Right. And the next method that we are talking about, which is shift method, will also remove a single element itself. Okay, so shift will also not take any kind of parameter over here because it is just removing the element from the array. And what it does, it removes the first element from an array, opposite to a pop method. So there can be a question as well, like what is difference between pop and shift method? Okay, and they will also try to confuse you between the unshift and shift. They might counter your question saying that shift is used to add the element or unshift is used to add the element. Okay, so do not get confused. Unshift. Okay, unshift means add the element to the beginning of an array. Shift means just remove. So just remove the first element from the array. It removes the first element from an array. Okay, syntax is same, array name dot shift method, which is array name dot shift over here. It will just remove the element and it will also return what the element it has removed from here. And it says that if the array itself is empty, then it will return us an undefined. If the array is empty, then if you try to use pop method or shift method, it will simply return us an undefined value. Now, after using shift method, you will see that the value that it was starting with a TS, now it will start with JS because TS will get removed by using shift method over here. Okay. Now, till now, whatever we have seen from the push method to the shift method, whatever we have seen over here, this is basically either deleting or adding the value. Either it is deleting or adding the value from the beginning or to the end. Okay, either it is adding to the beginning or to the end, or removing from the beginning or from the end. Right? What if, let's say, if we have to do it, if we have to perform both of the operation at the same time? Is it possible? Removing the element and also adding the element at the same time. Okay, that's an interesting method, right? And that will be another question in terms of array. What is meant by splice method, or what is the use of splice method? Or there will be a question saying that what is difference between splice and slice method, which we'll be discussing as a 6th and 7th method over here. Next method that we have is known as splice. Okay. And the next method will be slice. So the difference is only of a P over here, splice and slice. So the people will get confused over here saying that, and they used to answer in a reverse way. They'll answer the splice as a slice and slice as a splice. Okay. So what is the use of splice method? Splice method will take couple of parameters. Splice method will take couple of parameters. This is an interesting method. Let's concentrate for the next 2 minutes. Okay. Splice method will take parameters, which is start index. First is start index. I'll talk about what is the significance of these parameters over here. Second says that number of element to delete. Number of element to delete. And third parameter that you see, which is you can add number of elements over here. Number of elements you can add it over here. The third parameter is the item that you are trying to add to the array. So these are the elements that you see are third parameter inside the splice method. First parameter is start index. Second parameter is number of element to delete, and third parameter is number of element that you are trying to add over here. Okay. Now, what is the use of splice method? Splice method helps us in deleting and adding the element at the same time. Performing the deletion and addition of the element at the same time at some specific index. Till now, whatever we have seen, this push method adds the element to the end of an array. This unshift adds the element to the beginning of an array. But what if I have to add the element in between the array, right? So that is possible by using splice method. Okay, let's see the syntax first and the significance of all these parameters that we have. So array name dot splice, which is method over here, start index, number of element to delete, and then the element that you want to add inside the array. Okay, now what is the significance of start index over here? So start index means the position where you want to add the element, and the position inside the array where you want to add the element. This will be the position to add the element. Position where you want to add the element to the element inside an array or to the array. Okay, this will be the position. That means, let's say if you are thinking of adding the value at second index or third index, you can just provide that particular index over here. Okay. Now, what is second parameter that arguments that it take, which is number of element to delete. So what is meant by that? What is the significance of that? It says that how many number of element that you want to delete. The number of elements you want to delete from the array. Splice method said that you can add and delete the element at the same time, but that is not mandatory. Okay, so number of element to delete, which is taking as a second parameter, it says that how many number of element that you want to delete from the array. And third parameter that you see, which is ELE1, ELE2, ELE3, and so on, it is the elements you want to add to the array. These are the elements that we want to add inside the array. Okay, and where it will get added? It will get added at the start index itself. Whatever the starting index that you have given, at that index, all these elements will get added. Okay, let's see an example. So if you see the example, which is, let's say, arr.splice, array name.splice 20tsjs. Now let's try to understand what is happening over here. Okay, so current array that we have is, let's get it from here. So the current index that we have is starting with JS 10, 20, and it is basically having till 90 elements, right? Let me put it over here so that we can understand. Current array that we have is this one. It's 90. Take it to here, take it to here. So the current array that we have is starting with JS, then we have 10, 20, 30, VS, TSJS, and then blue and some other values, and it ends at number 90, right? So that means we have a zero index, one index, number index 1, index 2, index 3, and so on. What we are trying to say over here is, we are trying to say that go to the index 2. What is the index 2 over here? This is 0, this is 1, and this is second index. 20 is second index over here, right? So we are saying go to the index 2, let's see the first definition. It says that removes element from an array and if necessary inserts new element in their place. Start is the zero-based index location in an array from which to start removing the element. Delete count, which is number of the element to delete, is the number of element to remove. An item, which is element to insert into the array wherever we have deleted the element from. So this is starting index, where we are saying go to the second index and delete zero number of elements. Let's see with first zero number of elements. So what we are saying is, if you do not want to delete any number of element, you cannot skip. You cannot basically skip this particular element. This is not an optional parameter. Okay. Even if you do not want to delete anything, you have to provide it 0 over here. You basically have to provide it with a 0 over here. Let's see this. We have gone through optional parameter earlier, right? So you should be aware of what is optional. So this is number of element to delete is not an optional parameter. It is mandatory. If you do not want to delete, then you have, if you do not want to delete any number of element, then you can simply put it at 0. And then these elements that you see that you have added over here, let me add something new, which is Java, and then let's say Python. Okay, so these elements will be added where? These elements will be added inside array. We know that, but at what point? At this particular index, at second index. You're saying that this start index that we have given is the starting point of the index where either it has to start deleting or it has to start adding. Okay, so currently we are saying 0 number of elements delete from the second index and add these elements at that particular index itself. So after this method, if you try to print the array, which is splice, after using splice method, you'll see that currently at second index we have 20, 30 and TS, and now it get replaced with, not replaced, but it will add the value which is JS, 10, Java and Python have been added at second index. Okay, so at whatever the start index that you have given over here, at that point of time, these two values have been added inside the array at starting index, which is 2. We have set 0 number of element to delete, so those elements have been shifted towards right. Okay, so this Java and Python have been added over here. Now let's say one more thing over here, that let it be like that, but let's see one more thing that I'm saying, start at index 2 and delete 2 number of elements. What it will do? What it will do is, current element is this one. Okay, let me remove this from here as we have already seen this. So I'll add this after this one. And let's do it. So what we are saying is start at index 2. Again, start at index 2. You can change it any index. Second index is not fixed. You can add this at any index. Okay, so we are saying start at index 2, or let's say start at index 3. What is at third index? 30 over here. And then we are saying remove 2 elements from the array starting at third index. So it will go at third index, which is 30, and TS will get removed from the array. As we are saying, delete 2 number of elements. So first it will delete 30. So TS will become third index, and then again it will delete this particular element as well, because we are saying delete 2 elements from the third index.
But
And at the
third position is Java, right? Not 30. That is the word one.
Sorry?
In current array, the third position is Java, right? Not the 30, right? Sorry, Python.
I have just commented on this one. Okay. So at third index we have 30, and then we are saying delete 2 elements. So 30 and TS will be removed, and in place of this 30 and TS, this Java and Python will be added. So whatever the element that you are deleting will be deleting from that start index. And if you are adding also the element, that element will also get added at the start index itself, whatever the index that you have given over here. So now if you see, Before that, it was like after adding this one, when we did not delete this, the Java and Python have been added at second. And now you will see that at third index, the Java and Python will be added. Python have been added over here. Okay, but if you see earlier, it was having 30 and TS, and both of 30 and TS have been removed from the current print. 30 and TS have been removed. We have JS 10, 20, Java, Python, which have been added. And then again, it is starting from here, which is JS and this. These two elements have been added. So this splice method basically helpful for us in terms of addition and deletion of an element at the same time. That means add the element and delete the element inside the array at the same time.
Praveen,
Okay.
but how many elements we can add at a time? Like you are mentioning Java and Python 2 elements, right? So we can add
You can
10.
add any number of elements. Whatever the number of element that you are trying to add, you can add it. Let's say 12, 13, 14, any number of element you can add it.
Any data
There is
type
no-
also.
Yes, any data type as well.
Okay.
Now, if you see, your resultant array will be something which will add the other elements, which is Java, Python, 12, 13, 14, JS, and other things have been added.
Okay.
Okay. So that is basically the use of splice method, which help us in adding and deleting the element at the same time.
Praveen, if we need to delete, okay, we need to only delete some elements on the array. There is no mandatory to add that elements, right? At the ending, like array dot splice of 3, 4 means okay, from the index of 3, the 4 elements will be deleted.
Right. So
Yes,
if you do not want to add is again an optional parameter. Adding is an optional parameter. If you do not want to add, then it will simply like whatever the number of element that you want to delete it over here, it will delete the value. And if you do not want to add, you can simply not provide the third element over there. In this case, if you see at third index, which is available as 30 over here, have removed two elements, which is 30 and TS, and then again started printing from JS over here. Okay, so if you do not want to add, simply do not provide the third parameter, which is basically an optional parameter.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's move to the next.
Praveen
method.
sir, just a quick question. How many array methods do you have? Like, that's what you're discussing.
There are a lot many. There are close to 15 methods.
Okay. So you'll be covering all of them, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All the major methods will be covered over here. Okay. Now, the next method that we have is known as slice. I've also given inside the document. So from there also you can go to, let's see what happened in this case. So the next method that we have is a slice method. What is the use of slice method? Slice method basically returns the portion of an array. Returns the portion of an array. Till now we had seen that we can we have received or we have fetched the element one by one or every element at a time by using for loop, right? But let's say if we have to get the portion of an element, which is only few number of an element, how do we get that? So this slice method will also accept a couple of parameters, which is start index and end index. And both of the index are optional over here. Both of the index are optional. Optional means along with the question mark. Along with the question mark over here. Okay. Now, what is the syntax? Syntax is same, which is array name dot slice, which will accept start index and end index. Start index means from this index to this particular index, return us the value. Okay, so slice method will return a portion of an array. Portion of an array. Okay. Also, end index is exclusive. End index is not inclusive. end index is exclusive. That means whatever the end index that you have given, it will give you the value from starting index to the end index minus 1. Okay, example. And what is the significance of this start index and end index? Start index, the position where you want to start the slice. That means you want to get the value from the array, and end index where you does an end index is basically exclusive over. Exclusive means not included. Now, if you say it as, let's say, console.log array.slice 1, 5. Okay, so slice method, if you see over here, over on this, and it says that it returns a copy of a section of an array, which takes a start index, which is optional, end index, which is optional. If you do not provide any index, I'll show you what will happen in that case. Okay. So if you just say it as array name dot slice start index at 1 and end index as 5, that means it will return us a value from index 1 to 5 minus 1, which is till fourth index. It will return us the value because end index is not exclusive. Not inclusive. What is the current array that we have, which is starting with JS 10, 20, and other things? We have also added a Java and Python 12, 13, 14 in between. So it will have some other elements, whatever the element that it will have at the index 4, 10, 20, 3 Java, and 4 Python. It has given us which is 10, 20 Java and Python. This is something where you want to get more than one element at a time. Okay. Second things over here is that, let's say if you do not provide the end index, then from starting this particular index, it will print all the value till the end of an element. If you do not provide the end index over here, then it will return all the values which comes after the second index, which start with 20 as a second index until 90 it has given over here as a result. So this one we have to use slice. This one also we have to use slice over here. In this case, you can see, like, let's say slice 1, 5 and slice 1. So when you give an end index, it will return us the value till the end index minus 1. If you have not given the end index, and if you have just given the start index at this point of time, starting at that particular index, it will give you all the value till the end of. You have not end. Do not index as well. What will happen in that case? If you do not provide start index, you do not provide anything over here. So I'll just say it as let's say only the slice, because we know that start index and end index are optional. We know that start index and end index are optional. If you do not provide any index, then it will return all the elements from an array. All the elements starting from the beginning to the end of the array, it will print all the elements from the array. Okay, so slice method will return us the value from the array. Either you can get few number of elements, or you can get all the elements from the array as well by using slice method. Okay, and there will be definitely a question saying that what is difference between splice and slice method. Okay, now till now, whatever the method that we have used, it returns us a value in the form of array itself. Right? What if we want to get the complete element as a form of string? If you want to get from array, how do we get that? So for that, we have a method known as toString. It will not accept any parameter. This will simply return us the element from the array in a string way. That means when you say it as arr, which is array name dot toString, it will simply return us all the elements from the array in the string format. String format means that doesn't mean like it will return us inside a single quote or double quote. It will simply return us the value, whatever the value are there, by separating with a comma separated value. Okay, just starting with JS 1020 without having it inside the square bracket. Okay, so all these value have been printed. That means toString basically converts the array to a string. Convert the array to string.
So, Praveen, this method is only converting the array to the string, right? So
Right.
that doesn't mean that when you are writing toString, so it will only return the values which were in string, right?
No, it just return a string representation of an array. All the
Okay.
values.
Okay. So all values will be returned, but that is in string format only.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Praveen, I have one query
Yes.
related to the slice. Okay.
Mhm.
So, like as you mentioned, so the both parameters, starting and ending, both are optional parameters, right?
Mm.
So, does it accept if I want the list of elements from array until certain index, I don't want to give a starting one. Does it accept
No,
like
that is not possible.
okay.
So if you do not want to give the starting index, that is basically not possible. So if you want to also provide the end index, then you have to mandatorily provide the starting index as well.
Okay. I think a strings also, normal string also here, TypeScript have a slice method, right?
Yes.
Is
Normal
it also
script-
same like it is fetching
Exactly similar things. Exactly.
Okay.
We'll discuss in our probably next session when we'll be going through with the strings.
Okay.
And at that point of time, I'll skip those methods, whatever the method that we are trying to discuss, which is overlapping between array and string.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
I have one question regarding the slice method.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
in the second one, slice one array dot slice of 2 means it will return 2 elements starting from
No.
first index, is it?
No. So it will return the element starting from index 2 to the end of an array, because this becomes a start index. So we are saying start at this particular end. As we have not given any end index, that means it will print all the elements till the end of an array.
Okay, starting from
Index 2.
second index, it will print all the elements. Okay.
Yes, because we have not given end index over
End
here.
index. Okay. And in the third line, what it will do?
So we have not given any so it will start printing from the starting of an array to the ending.
I lost your voice in between. Could you
Okay.
repeat?
So I'll repeat. So if you are not providing any starting index and end index, at that point of time, it will return the entire array. Because we have not set any starting index and any end index, so it will return all the entire array value.
Okay. So in that case, why are we using slice method then? It should not allow, right?
So it has given a flexibility that you can also get all the elements at one point of time.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
This has just given a flexibility that you can also return the complete array as well, if you want to return at any point of time. But this is again, as you said, this is unnecessary, but they have given the flexibility. If at any point of time, if you want to return all the array, then you can use a slice with not having any index.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do we
Yes.
have any method? Okay, like we can add values in different indexes. Like if I need to add two values, okay, at particular index, like two different indexes. One will be at first index and one will be at fifth index, like that.
One will be at first index and one will be at fifth index.
Index.
You have to basically use in two different ways.
Okay.
Right. There are nothing such method that will allow you to add at two different index. If you want to add at like asynchronous fashion, then you can use splice. But apart from that, there is nothing such.
Okay.
Praveen sir, which one do you use most common in the automation framework? Which array method?
So generally, in terms of array, whenever we try to use in test automation, probably as I said, we will be using very limited period of time the array concept itself, but these will be utilized at the time of programming.
Okay, got it.
These methods will be utilized at the time of programming. Later, after number 10th method, we'll see that some of the method will be which will accept a callback function, which will accept a parameter as a function. Those method will be utilized for programming. Those method will be asked in the interview as well. After the 10th method that we'll be discussing.
Okay, but usually arrays declare the prefix, like if you're looking for specific or something.
I lost your voice.
No, I was asking, usually we use arrays for data-driven testing, right? That's what you mentioned last time.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
So we usually use array for the data-driven testing.
Data-driven, and apart from that, not for the test cases, right? When you're converting manual to automated test case.
Not usually. If there is any such requirement that you want to get like multiple datas or you want to set multiple inside the field, then I can discover that not be Dr.
Lost you for a while. If you could.
Yeah, for me also, we are losing your voice, Praveen.
Yeah.
Check it once.
Sure, why it is happening.
Yes,
Okay.
Praveen. And sometimes, your screen was also blur for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it is since yesterday.
Your voice is breaking.
Yeah, actually, I thought that was at my end, so I have restarted my router twice.
Okay.
Read that.
Still, it is continuously breaking now.
Okay. So screen is visible.
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Yeah, screen is visible.
But your voice is somehow breaking.
Right.
Not sure. Might be an issue with the phone. Internet. Not sure. I'll sort it out. That. Okay. So this is also 5G itself. Okay. One of you see like it is breaking, you can drop me. And like we'll check it. Okay. So third is take an argument as an element. Simple an argument as an element over here. And what it says is index of will basically return the index value of an element. Index of an element that are inside an element. Return us index of an trying what syntax array name dot in, and then so if we are trying to search for an element is array as a value as ts. Let's say for ts, we know that basically not available. Okay, what is the definition? It says that returns of occurrences of a value in an array. Whenever index of will check element is available inside or not. If that available multiple times, let's say JS is available multiple in an array, so this will try to return the first occurrences of element we are trying to search. Okay. This will simply give us the index of the first occurrences of an element, and here it will return us a value 0 because J is first time available at first index. Okay, if the element itself are not available, it will just return you the first occurrences of an element. But if the element that we are trying to search are not available inside an array, then it will return us -1 as an index. That means say that it's not available inside an array. In this case, if you try to returning us -1 because it says that TS is not available inside the array. TS is not available array, but the array we are trying to search. If it is then the first occurrences of element will be returned over here. Okay. Now, in the same way, what we mean is the index of another method known as last index. Last index. Take an element. What is of this last index of? Last index of return us the index of a first occurrences of a value from the right side of an array. From the right side of an array. In this case, index of will from the left side of an array. Left side from the last index of means it starts at right side of an array.
Praveen, sorry to interrupt you, but your voice was breaking too much. I mean, I'm hardly able to hear you anything.
Yeah, it's Praveen. Yeah.
Okay.
Noise is great.
Right. Okay, same for everyone. Okay. Okay, so let's see for the next 2 to 3 minutes if it is breaking, the session will continue in the session. I'll okay. Let's check for the next 2 minutes. If it is break, then we'll stop and continue in the next session. Okay. Now you can stop in between if you are not able to see. I'll stop there itself. So last index of will generally return a last index of a matching element. Here in terms of index will return first access of an element. Last index of it will return the last occurrences of an element or first occurrence of an element, right side of the array. Okay. Syntax is array name dot last index of element, and you can simply say last JS. You know there are two elements available in JS. One first in 0th index and second is at somewhere over here. Okay, so last will generally return the index of a last occurrences of the specified value in an. Again, if the element itself is not available, then it will return as a -1 value. So you can return last index of JS, which is 8. When we say at index of JS, that it has returned as first occurrences of value, which is 0 and that is returning here as. Okay.
Sir, again your voice is breaking.
Okay, so let's session over. Let's stop the session over here. I'll check it out. What is I like that why it is happening. Not why it is happening, but we'll continue in the next session from here on. So we have method left out which are important for the discussion, which is known as for each will accept a function as a parameter. Have again a function as a parameter. Have filter as a parameter. Reduce will accept function as a parameter. Then we have sum function as a parameter, which accepts function as a parameter and will continue from section. Okay, let me see if I have any Q&A part over here. Then we'll. I'm so sorry. Not sure it was breaking today so much. But I'll try to figure out is the issue Joho or anything else. If it will be an Joho, probably I'll need to change the meeting link, which I can provide the teams as well. Okay, but I'll check. Let's see if any question which is in that is not possible. You can also replace, you can simply use it as array of 0 equals to some other value, and that will replace the value at the existing index. Yes. Madhu, yes, that is right. Breaking for me. You provided me a new seems voice is not coming to you already. I have to. Priyanka, I believe I have given to most of the people, and they are able to. So just check it out. Might be having some issue from your side itself. I believe other people are able to speak it out. Can someone speak over here?
Yeah, we can.
Right. Priyanka, check it out from because others are able to speak, so there is no problem from my side. Just try it is not happening. Okay, I'll sort it out. If the problem is with the Zoho, then I'll provide you the another link that create for us. Then we'll check. Then we'll check from the next side. Difficult here. I'll push the code and we'll. Okay, so that then from session